SJ. Welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. SJ, Stongo, Gary Fife, Jaho Jeff Gados.
Darren DeLaune, Jaho Jeff Gados.
Mvskoke Radio, Mabu Hedget Awedjikiz. Welcome to our program here. We've got several things here stashed away for you today. We'll be hearing a piece that our good co-host Darren DeLaune did with a literary giant in Native America, M.Scott Momaday. He talked to him about his famous novel, Housemaid of Dawn. And was that fun? Did you enjoy it?
When you hear in the recording, you can tell that I'm kind of like starstruck. I mean, I never had to do an interview, I guess, of that magnitude.
Right. And, well, it did kick you up a intellectual level, I'd say.
It was very fun, though. I mean, just to hear him talk about, like how he made that. What made him want to become a writer? What made him want to become an artist in general? I mean, just all the background. I mean, that was a great thing to hear from him.
Yeah, a Pulitzer Prize-winning author. Mm-hmm. Also, I suppose most of you out there in our listening area felt a cold snap this morning. Gee, it was a harsh reminder of winter rolling in on us. We're going to be speaking with Daniel Carlock of Social Services about the energy assistance programs that are available through the tribe, both through the tribal grant and through LIHEAP. If you need some assistance or you know someone who might need some help in staying warm this coming winter. And our final segment will be borrowing a piece from our folks, our good buddies over at Native News Today. We'll listen to Jason Salzman interviewing Carmen Tecumseh Williams, who is a new tribal liaison for the tribe and with the state. So we're going to find out what she's got planned in filling that really key position. But first of all, Darren, anything to say before we roll you and Scott here?
Let's just hope. I think we made sure that the CD worked. I just hope it works this time too. So I mean, it was a great interview, and I'm glad you helped me get prepared for it. So thank you for that. And if Mr. Momaday is listening to us, I hope he thank you for the interview as well. So with no further ado. Dr. Momaday, for my listeners, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I am Scott Momaday. I'm a retired professor of English and American literature. I'm a writer. I have written something like 12 books and I'm a graduate of the University of New Mexico, and then I went to graduate school at Stanford where I got my master's and PhD, and I have taught in many places. Most notably, I taught at Stanford and the University of California, Berkeley. My first teaching post was the University of California at Santa Barbara. I've taught in Germany and in Russia, and I've been around the world. I enjoyed traveling when I could. I'm in a wheelchair now, but. In my salad days, I traveled around the world, and I enjoyed that very much. And that's pretty much the story of my life.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You're also American Indian, of course. You're Kiowa. Are there any other tribes that you are as well?
My mother was part Cherokee, so I have a little bit of Cherokee blood, and my father was a full-blood Kiowa.
Okay, and you were born or you lived in Lawton, Oklahoma for a little while. Is that correct?
Well, I was born in Lawton.
Okay.
I lived. My first home was my grandparents' home in Mountain View, Oklahoma, which is north and west of Lawton.
Okay, we'll just go ahead and get started. Dr. Momaday, it seemed like you were pretty much destined to be an artist in some way. I know that your mom was a writer, and your dad was and your father was also a painter. Were you with that? I guess being that coming from a creative background, were you wanting to be a writer almost immediately, or was there other things that you were wanting to do?
Well, very early in my life, when I was just a boy, I wanted to be a writer.
Uh-huh.
But mother was a writer, and so that's what I determined to be, and I did become a writer. Then in my adulthood, I turned to painting because I had watched my father paint, and I learned a lot about painting by osmosis, just watching him. I wasn't concerned to be a painter until I was in Russia in 1974, and that's when I got interested in drawing and painting, and that developed into a whole career. So I have two things going, writing and painting.
With you're saying that your father's a painter, but you being in Russia, what was there like a certain piece of art or something like that you just saw that made you want to really like do be an artist?
I think that it was a response to a kind of homesickness.
Uh-huh.
In very alien circumstances for me. I'd never been there. But it was a very different world. I enjoyed my time in Russia very much. It was uncomfortable, but it was fascinating. And I think at some point while I was there, I started drawing simply to return myself to my native land in my imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did some sketching there, and as I say, that developed into painting and printmaking, and a whole new avenue for my energies.
Okay, wow. I'll move on to my next one. I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong. When I was reading up, there was a published book on a doctoral thesis that you had. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, a book on what?
Thesis that you had, like a doctoral thesis about some poems?
I did my doctoral dissertation on the poems of Frederick Goddard Tuckerman,
Yeah.
19th century American poet, and yes, that dissertation was published by Oxford University Press.
Okay, could you tell me a little bit about that? What made you want to do that?
Well, I was exposed to a good many poets when I was in graduate school, and Frederick Goddard Tuckerman was a delightful find for me. He was very little known, but I discovered his poems. They were located at the Houghton Library at Harvard.
Uh-huh.
And so I went there and read them I read them in manuscript at Stanford, and then I went to Harvard and read the actual manuscripts. And I edited his complete poems. He was a wonderful poet, particularly a sonneteer. He wrote 106 sonnets, as I remember. And he wrote The Cricket, which one of my mentors proclaimed to be the best poem in the English language in the 19th century.
Uh-huh.
So I got excited by his work, and I went and edited his complete poems.
Okay. All right, and I kind of want to just get to there was a book that you've written, and pretty much a lot of people, from what I was told, it's they consider it a key component in the Native American Renaissance, and also bringing Native American literature into the mainstream media. And of course, that is your book called Housemaid of Dawn. And could you give us a little synopsis on that book, please?
I spent, my parents were teachers at Amos Pueblo.
Uh-huh.
For 25 years, actually. They taught there and then retired. But I was 12 years old when we went to Amos, and I spent the next few years there. It was the most impressionable time of my life, I think. And I learned a lot about the people and the culture there, and I saw a lot of young men returning from World War II. Mm-hmm. They were disoriented. They were trying to find their way back into the traditional world, and they were having great problems. And so it was an interesting generation, and I wrote about it in Housemaid of Dawn. My hero was a young man who returned from the war and found that he was, he couldn't fit himself back easily into the traditional world. So he took part in what is called the relocation program, and he lived in Los Angeles for a time. And he was just simply not suited, unfit to live in that world, and he returned to the reservation. And we wonder at the end of the book whether he was able to fit himself back into the traditional world or not. Mm-hmm. It's an open-ended book. You could come to your own conclusion about it.
And that's what made it very, very monumental and momentous. Now that hero that you're talking about, he goes by the name of Abel. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes.
Was Abel and was he? I guess could he relate to somebody that you knew, or somebody I guess that just played a big part in your life?
Yes, he was modeled on several people that I did know at Amos.
Mm-hmm.
These, as I say, were young men who had returned from the war. Yeah, that's right. I did know an Abel at Amos Pueblo, and he was an interesting and colorful man. So he was my principal model, but I brought in other people to fit into that identity as well.
And with the real life Abel, does he know that he was the inspiration for the book for The Housemaid of Dawn?
No, he died before I wrote the book.
Okay. Let's get back that part of the book. After you finished the book, what was going through your head? Like, you finally got Housemaid of Dawn finished. What was going through your mind?
Glad to have it finished. Yeah, I started writing it at Amos Springs, where my parents had a home, and I lived there for a time. Mm-hmm. And then I wrote it in Santa Barbara, which was my first teaching post, University of California at Santa Barbara. And I finished it in Amherst, Massachusetts, where I was on a Guggenheim reading the poems of Emily Dickinson in manuscript. So it took a couple of years to do, but I wrote it not steadily but sporadically. Mm-hmm. And I finished it in Massachusetts, and was glad to have done with it. I wanted to turn my attention to other things, particularly poetry after that.
Yeah. With I come across a lot of I've asked other authors how they would write. There was one lady perhaps she brought up how she would write maybe like a page or a paragraph a day. Sometimes it did take a long time, sometimes that didn't. You said that this one did take you a couple of years. Would you for instance, sit down and then just start writing there, then take a break, or how did you go about doing your writing?
I was on a pretty good writing schedule, particularly at Santa Barbara. Mm-hmm. I had a routine. I would get up at fairly early, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'd go out for breakfast and read the paper. And then I'd come back, and by 8 o'clock I was at my typewriter, and I could write for about 6 hours. And that was a wonderful pace for me. I got a lot of writing done that way. But, that didn't last forever.
Yeah.
And then I returned to a less disciplined schedule where I started writing, as you say, about a paragraph a day. That's a good pace.
Uh-huh.
I think I shoot for something like 250 words a day. If I can do that, I'm quite satisfied.
Okay. After, like you said, you finished the book, you're relieved, that you got that done. Did you find any adversity trying to get the book published, or was that pretty hard to do, or was it a lot easier than you thought?
It was very easy for me because I was lucky. The woman who became my editor at Harper and Row was at Stanford when I was there, and she edited the literary magazine at Stanford, which was called Sequoia. Mm-hmm. And so she published some of my poems. And then when we graduated and went our separate ways, she went to Harper and Row, and she got a job as an editor with Harper and Row in New York. And she wrote to me asking me if I had enough poems for a book. And I said, no, but I have a novel underway. Would you like to see the first couple of chapters? And so I sent it to her, and then they accepted it. So it was an easy road for me.
With like we said earlier, from what I have read, how Housemaid of Dawn was that key component to the Native American Renaissance. It was that spark. How do you feel about that, knowing that, your book was one of the things that got the Native American literature into, mainstream media? Other races were reading it.
I was delighted, and still am. It seems to me that that book and Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, those two books came out at about the same time, and I think they were both extremely important in sparking what is called the Native American Renaissance. Mm-hmm. So, what I wrote and what I'm trying to think of the name of the author of Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. But the two books just struck a note. They came about at the right time. And so I'm extremely happy about that. I feel very fortunate. And I'm very glad that I have inspired, my book has inspired other Native American writers to work and write and find a voice. That's important.
That kind of rolled into another question that I had. From that, there's other Native American authors such as Sherman Alexie, Leslie Marmon Silko, Vine Deloria Jr. Those authors right there. And they found a lot of inspiration from you. We heard Sherman Alexie say that quite a bit from from your writings. How do you feel about that? That being that inspiration, being I guess that focal point, more or less.
Well, I'm extremely grateful for playing that role. I hope that I know the people you've mentioned, Sherman, I know, and Leslie Marmon Silko. I knew Jim Welch. So it was, it's a kind of club, the two, and we all had a voice in furthering the awakening of literature among Indian writers. So I'm very proud of that. I think it was a good thing, and then I rest on those laurels.
With like Vine Deloria Jr. Wrote that one. It was a book on. It was that Custer Died for Your Sins. That Indian Manifesto. What did you think of that book, or have you been able to? Were you able to read that one? I
did read that, and I thought very well of it. Vine was a close friend, and so I knew something about his work. I have still not read all of it. Mm-hmm. But what I've read, I think, is important. He's more of not a novelist, but a kind of agent provocateur, a kind of political writer, and what he wrote is very important, and he broke ground. So I think he made a great contribution to native writing, and I know he's influenced a number of people for the good.
All right. Excuse me. Housemaid of Dawn. Of course. It won a very prestigious award, and it won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction. Tell me what went through your head, and whenever you found out about that, you won that award, and also, what does that mean for a native author to win that award? Win something of that magnitude.
Well, what I can say about that is it was a complete surprise to me. I had no idea that Housemaid of Dawn was being considered for the Pulitzer. And I got a call from my editor one day. I was in Santa Barbara, and she said her name was Fran McCullough, and she was a very good editor. And she called me on the phone, and she said, "Scott, are you sitting down?" And I said, "What is it, Fran?" I wasn't sitting down, but I should have been. Uh-huh. She said, "You've just been awarded a Pulitzer Prize." And I thought she was joking, so I said something like, "Oh, come on, Fran, I'm busy. What do you want?" Finally, after a while, it sunk in, and then people started showing up to take my picture and have articles in the newspaper and so on. So it was a complete surprise, and of course I was delighted, and it changed my life in certain ways. I was a professor, a young professor at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and we all in those days had to face the publish or perish rule. And so once I won that award, I never had to worry about publishing again because people were coming to me and I didn't have to go to them. So it was a fortunate thing for me, and I think I look back on that with great pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to ask this too. Was after that happened, after you got that award, did anybody come up to you like, "Hey, can we make a movie out of this, out of that book?" Yes.
In fact, the movie was made of it. It was not distributed widely.
Uh-huh.
The person who made the movie it was his first time in that arena. But he did make a movie which was shown pretty widely in film festivals.
Wow.
It never did get great national distribution.
Yeah.
So it's still around, but it is never made into a very popular feature film.
Like I said earlier, you come from that creative family, but was there? I mean, besides your mom, being a writer herself, was there any other authors or who inspired you, to write as well?
Well, during the course of my education, I encountered a great many writers whose work was important to me. I can't really say, by whom I was influenced.
Mm-hmm.
I have certain writers whose work I admire very much, and I'm sure they set an example for me and were important in my reading and then in my writing as well.
We can we talked about you wrote poetry, you wrote Housemaid of Dawn. Can you please tell my listeners what else have you written?
Well, I've written about 12 books,
uh-huh.
and covering a great many forms. I wrote. I've only written 2 novels, and I'm known as a novelist, I think, because of the Pulitzer Prize. But I really consider myself a poet.
Okay.
I've written several books of poetry. I've written travel literature. I've written 3 plays, and so I've covered a wide range of activity in writing. The other book I should mention, in addition to Housemaid of Dawn, I have written a book called The Way to Rainy Mountain, which is a collection of Kiowa folk tales with commentaries. And that has been my bestseller. It's published by the University of New Mexico Press. And, it's been around. It's been in print since 1969. And it has been far and away my bestseller. It continues to sell every year, more copies than the year before. So it's had a wonderful kind of life, and I'm very proud of that book. I think it's my favorite of my books.
Okay, of your books. And I guess that was your favorite yearbook. But are there any other authors that you're fascinated with, or do you like reading from their books? Is there any other authors that you like reading from?
Well, yes, I like. There's so many names to mention. I'm very fond of Isak Dinesen, who wrote Out of Africa.
Uh-huh.
I think she's a wonderful writer. English was not her first language, but she wrote in the English language as expertly as anyone can, I think. And I like Hemingway, some of Hemingway's work. I like some of Faulkner's work. In poetry, I like Emily Dickinson above all. And then people like Wallace Stevens and Hart Crane. Those are people who have I've been delighted in their writing and have read them in some depth, and I appreciate them very much.
Yeah, Dr. Momaday, please tell me, after such a big time, writing and doing poetry, writing a novel. Well, you wrote 2 novels, like you said. What are you doing these days now? What are you doing now?
Writing poetry for the most part. I have a memoir in the works, but it's a long way. I've got about 3 chapters, and so it's not going to show up for a while. But I'm doing that sporadically and spending most of my energy writing poetry and painting. I'm also a painter, so I follow that career as well.
How many pieces, like paintings, how many paintings have you done? Or are they, are they around like in such museums throughout the United States, or whereabouts are they at?
They're here and there. I have shown in a number of galleries, particularly here in Santa Fe.
Okay.
But I have also worked at the Herd Museum in Phoenix.
Yes.
And in other places. My most recent gallery here was called Shane Bennett, and it's a good gallery. I have enjoyed having that kind of exposure, and I have a lot of work on hand. I keep painting. I've been interested in watercolor for some time. My father was a watercolorist, and so I've got quite a collection on hand, and I think I'm going to set up an exhibit sometime soon. I'm not sure where, possibly at the George O'Keeffe Museum in Santa Fe.
Okay. Is watercolor the only type of, that style of painting that you do, or is there any other type of styles of painting as well?
Yes, I do a lot of acrylics. I like working on paper. So acrylics and watercolor are my main mediums. And I draw a lot. I like drawing with ink, and so I have a number of ink drawings as well. Just black and white, but they're exciting for me to do, and I'm getting pretty good at it, I think.
Is there any certain subject matters that you cover whenever you paint? Whenever you paint these, I call them. I'm gonna go ahead and call them masterpieces because I believe that's what they are.
My first exhibit was a collection of shields, Plains Indian shields, which is one of my favorite icons. So I keep returning to that particular subject. I paint a lot of shields, but I also paint portraits, a lot of portraits, and a lot of Native American iconography, shields, medicine bundles, and things like that interest me a lot. So I do a lot of work in that area, but I depart from it as well. So I have a pretty wide range of subjects.
Could you tell me, in your opinion, what do you think? The state of the art for today's native authors.
There's American Indian art is a very big thing, particularly in this part of the world, the Southwest, Scottsdale, Arizona, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Those are really important centers for Native American art, and I think it's a growing concern. It's unfortunately the art market is depressed at the moment, as so many other markets are. But Indian artists are producing really wonderful work, and we have some top flight Native American artists, and they will continue to do good work, and they will be followed by others who are doing good work. So it's alive and well.
Yeah, and I'm going to add on to that question too. What about Native American authors? What's the state of the art today for them, for Native American authors?
The prognosis is very healthy, very good. There are a lot of people who are writing, and they continue to grow in number, and they do good work. So we're going to see a lot of activity in writing from Native American people, and I think very soon. I don't know how many are doing it. I can name a number of writers whose work is important, but it's going to grow. I'm sure there are a lot of good Native American writers that I do not know, but they will come to the surface, and they will make an impression on literature in general, I think.
I have one more question to ask Dr. Momaday. You know, if there is anything that you would like to say to any of the young Native American authors or Native American writers that are out there that are listening, what would you say to them right now?
Well, I think the best advice that I can give to young people writing or painting is begin. The beginning is very important. You have to make a start. And I once talked to Fitz Shoulder, who was a good friend of mine and a wonderful painter. And I asked him how he started a painting, and he said, I don't particularly have a subject in mind, but I go to the canvas and I cover it with paint. And that's my beginning. Once I've done that, I've got a painting underway. So, I think I would say to young aspiring artists, make the beginning. Get something down. If you're a writer, get some words down on paper. It's not particularly important that you write, deathless prose at the beginning, but get a sentence down, and then you have something to build on, and that's how you start, and that'll carry you a long way.
Dr. Momaday, I want to thank you for. I know you have a busy schedule. I know you're doing a lot of things still. You've got a lot of projects, but I want to thank you for taking the time out of that busy day to be able to talk to Mvskoke Radio and Mvskoke Media, about your life and about what's going on in the past and what's going on now. And I want to say just thank you very much. But before that, is there anything else that you want to tell us?
No, I think we've covered the field pretty well, and I thank you for calling, and it's been nice talking to you, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Dr. Momaday. You have a great day.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Okay, that was our Darren DeLaune speaking with M.Scott Momaday about his writing and wonderful success in the world of literature and art. Nice job, Darren. We're proud of you. We're going to take a short break here on Mvskoke Radio here on 1240 The Brew, and we'll be back and talk about some ways you can stay warm for this coming winter. So please stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio.
Who am I? Am I native? I don't want people assuming things because I'm Indian. I just want to be me. But how do I live in two worlds? Some guys just check out by doing meth. But that ain't for me. Because I see my family, my friends, my drum making, my future. There are a lot of cool things about being who I am. And meth isn't one of them.
Learn more at ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
One Fire Casino in Okmulgee offers Ladies' Day every Monday with $5 match play, VIP days for seniors on Tuesdays, lunchtime match plays on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and several other great drawings and prizes throughout the weekend. Don't forget to take advantage of spinning the wheel on Sundays to win up to $5,000 cash. Be sure to check out the daily meal specials at Council Oak Cafe. There are exciting monthly giveaways with extravagant prizes. Come and play at One Fire Casino, where it really is okay to play with fire.
Welcome back to Mvskoke Radio here on 1240 The Brew. I'm Gary Fife. We have on the line with us Daniel Carluck of Social Services. He's got some information to share on keeping warm for this coming winter. The tribe has access to its own tribal energy program, plus a connection with a federal program called LIHEAP. First of all, Daniel, are you there on the line with us, please?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay, why don't you first of all give us your title and your agency there?
I'm the program manager for the Social Services Department, part of the Human Services Department as well.
Okay, great. If you're like the rest of us this morning, you woke up to a nice bitterly cold surprise. Well, not bitter perhaps yet, but it's going to be pretty soon. But it's quite a change from the lovely inclement weather we've had so far that dropped down into the 30s, really woke us up. So the tribe has its own program plus access to federal assistance there. So first of all, let's give us an idea of what the tribe has in its own energy program.
Well, what the tribe offers is we have a program called the Tribal Energy Program, and what that is a tribally funded program that's basically set up for our elderly citizens and our disabled citizens that kind of helps them out during inclement weather times, say the heating or cooling seasons, with a $400 payment towards whatever source is for that season. Say the heating season would be any heating source such as electric, gas, propane, and even wood. During the summer, it's electric for your cooling source.
Okay, now you mentioned wood. Do you have anything to do with those stacks of wood, those ricks that are over there by the tribal driveways people?
We do not, but what we do is we do refer some of our citizens there if they've already taken advantage of that program, and we've provided services for them to get that wood, and they're needing additional wood. We refer them over there to our senior services or elderly services program, and they can kind of facilitate that additional wood for them.
That's for folks whose primary source of heat is a wood-burning stove. Yeah. Now, I'm sure there are eligibility requirements for the tribal program, so why don't you give us a rundown there?
One of the eligibility requirements for that program, it doesn't matter where you live, you can take advantage of that, but you do have to be one of our elder citizens, 55 or older, or you have to be a disabled Creek citizen in order to take advantage of that program itself.
And are there any other requirements? Do people have to show some sort of documentation of income or family size or anything like that?
The tribal energy is not income-based. We do require that you turn in tribal cards or Social Security cards, birth certificates, and driver's license for non-tribal citizens for every one of those, plus your utility bill for that corresponding season. Like I said, there's no income eligibility requirements for the tribal energy. You just have to be one of our elders or disabled citizens.
Sure, and you have to be able to prove it, then, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
For a disabled, it would be a Social Security Disability Award letter. And, of course, with any of the other stuff, you're going to show documentation of your age to be able to qualify.
Okay. Funny thing is, I sound like I qualify there. Hey. Now, that's not the only program that your office handles. Now, we often hear of the program, the federal money is called LIHEAP. Perhaps you could explain what that is.
Yes, sir. What LIHEAP is a federally funded program that is set up to assist our low-income housing, our low-income citizens. Basically what it is, it's almost the same qualifications as the tribal energy, but there's no age requirement. There is an income requirement. You pretty much have to supply the same documentation with the exception of added income requirements, for anyone over the age of 18 in the home. You do have to live within our service area, our jurisdiction, to be able to qualify for that LIHEAP. And it is kind of based on your income, the amount of assistance you do receive. So it does kind of vary with each heating source and your income level.
So there are some catches involved with that program.
Yes, sir. But I mean, it is something that we want everyone to utilize and take advantage of because it is a program that's available to any, they don't even have to be a citizen of any of the tribes. They can have a CDIB card as long as they have that CDIB card and they're, recognized, I guess, to a point of degree of Indian blood. Any tribe within, that's federally recognized within our jurisdiction. They can live within our jurisdiction.
Okay. Main point being they have to be a Native American person then.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, do you have any feel on how much or how many people actually have applied for this kind of help in the past or up to this year? Do you keep those kind of numbers?
We do. I don't have them in front of me, but I can give you kind of a guesstimate of what we assisted last year in tribal energy alone. There were right around 1,500, give or take, participants in just the tribal energy program by itself. Now, the LIHEAP, it does kind of decrease a little bit because of the income requirements, and also I'm assuming that a lot of people have not got the word of the LIHEAP program itself. That's why we're trying to get that out there so more people can take advantage of that.
Now, what comes to mind for me is a small home back in the hills somewhere, set off by itself, an elderly couple by themselves or with some family members there. But that's not necessarily the characteristic of the families receiving assistance?
No, sir. There's no set standard on where they live or how many people are in the home. I mean, it's rural settings as well as urban settings as well, as long as they're within our jurisdiction for the LIHEAP. And tribal energy, I mean, it's nationwide, regardless if you live in the mountains or if you live in the middle of Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Now, the application process for both programs runs through your office, obviously. So if someone wanted to apply for help, how does that happen?
They can either come into the office and do an application. They can call in and do an application over the phone. We can mail, fax, or email you an application. And we'll inform you of all the documents that need to be returned. Now, we'll mention that there is a 45-day processing period. Now, that's not always the case. It doesn't always take 45 days. We just tell you that mainly because there's so many applications that come through. We want to make sure that everyone is processed and make no guarantees that someone's going to be processed before another. And also, we want to make sure that everyone understands it's not an emergency program. It is kind of our Tribal Energy is a respect program to our tribal elders and our disabled citizens. LIHEAP is just, it's an assistance program to kind of help you get through that season.
Now, should anyone be worried about kind of a social stigma about applying for this kind of help? Considered poor or indigent or something like that? Labels that might not be accurate, but, should people just sort of disregard that and come get the help they might need to stay warm?
Absolutely. We don't put any stigmas on anyone and judge them based on criteria of, how much money they have or don't have. We want to help everyone that's eligible within our jurisdiction, regardless of what your income is, whether you have any or not. We don't want to create a stigma for that. Everyone should be taking advantage of this regardless of their situation as long as they qualify.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great that you make that point. Now, we're probably not reaching a lot of the folks who may need the help, so then their relatives or anyone who's listening and know of people in this situation, inform them, tell them that this help is there if they want it. They're probably aware of it, but just in case they're not, how would someone go about contacting you?
They can contact us at our main number, the 918-549-2445 number. They can ask one of the receptionists to transfer them to the Energy Department or one of our intake workers to get any information for that. We will be making some trips out to some community centers in the future. We don't have a set date for each one of those centers that I've got right in front of me, but we will make some of those trips. We're trying to get that word out as much as possible so people can take advantage of that.
Well, send us a list and dates, and we'll try and do what we can to help you out there.
Absolutely.
Now, I know this isn't your ball of wax, but do you have any feel for what we're looking at for the coming winter? I mean, is it going? I know you're not the Weather Bureau, but have you all talked about it or gotten any indication whether it's going to be a tough one again or kind of mild or anything like that?
Well, I mean, just like, everyone says it's Oklahoma, we could be wearing shorts today and a parka tomorrow. We don't know the exact, weather, but from what I've gathered, right now, since it's so mild, we're looking at a possible, huge cold front that comes through in the beginning of the year. That's going to be probably a little worse than previous years, just based on what I've read. There's no guarantees, of course, but that is something that we're looking at.
Well, let's hope people get their applications in and are prepared, taking that time, that waiting period into consideration and things like that. There's always Oklahomans walking around in the snow in shorts and flip-flops and that kind of thing. Hardcore.
Yes.
Just won't give it up. Okay, now, once again, Daniel, give us that phone number and we'll get out of your way and let you go.
Okay, the main number is 918-549-2445. And anyone that's outside of our boundaries, all they have to do is they can go to the Creek Nation website and look at the 1-800 number. Once they call that 1-800 number, they can just ask to be transferred to the Social Services Department, and that can be, that can be facilitated and sent to us.
Okay, great. I want to say, Mado, we appreciate you sharing this information. I hope that a lot of folks will take advantage of the assistance that's out there if they need it. So we're glad you guys are there and putting this out. So, Mado.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll take a real short break here, and we'll be back with the Jason Salzman interview with Carmen Tecumseh Williams. So stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio.
Hear that? That's the sound of hope being killed by meth. Methamphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org.
Who am I? Am I Indian? Just 'cause I'm a girl from the res, don't make things up about me. What if I move away? Then who am I? Some kids try meth just to escape, but then I think about my grandma, my little brother, my beadwork, my poetry, and I think, I like who I am, and I know meth is not for me.
Check out ncai.org, a message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Welcome back to Mvskoke Radio. Next on our program here, we're going to be sharing a piece from our partners at Mvskoke Media's TV arm, Native News Today. Jason Salzman did an interview with Carmen Tecumseh Williams, who's serving as a tribal liaison for the state now and the tribe, and making things happen to make sure our concerns are taken up to the highest levels of state government, and that our tribal concerns are there. So let's share this piece, and thanks to Native News Today.
We're here at the Mulgi Department of Human Services. This is the division office here, and I am with Carmen Tecumseh Williams. Carmen, thanks so much for being with us today.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, we were wanting to talk with you because as a Creek citizen, you now are the new liaison to the State Office of the Department of Human Services, the tribal liaison. Kind of basically give us a rundown of what that all entails.
Okay, well, it's a phenomenal opportunity for us as tribes to be able to have a liaison that has direct access to Director Lake's office. The tribal liaison has opportunity to work with several different departments: child welfare, adult protection, child support enforcement, child care. All the human service departments that the tribes have in like with the state of Oklahoma. And with that, the opportunity is that we have the opportunity to hear the voice of the tribes.
Yeah, and that's great too, because as you said, there are so many offices at different tribes that mirror the same offices that are at the state level. With the tribes having all also human services departments and things like that they deal with that mirror the state having those departments too. It is something where you do need someone as a liaison necessarily to step in and have that communication with the tribe departments to the state. I mean, have you seen that as well?
Absolutely. We, as tribes, of course, again, coming from the tribe, I understand that a lot of times we feel like that our voices aren't being heard. With the liaison position, we have the opportunity as the state to actually hear and have access to those that really need to hear the information. Sometimes it gets to a certain point where tribes may have some issues and feel like that they don't have a voice here in the state of Oklahoma. As far as it might get to a certain point and then it kind of falls off the map or falls through the cracks. With this, the opportunity is when we hear that that there are issues, ongoing issues, and maybe they're not making it to where the change can happen. That's where we as tribal liaisons, or where I get to come in as a tribal liaison, is to relay that on to the director's office so that he knows, so that he is aware of what's going on. Director Lakes is his vision to build those relationships with tribes is he's very committed to that, and that's the reason for this position to be created.
I wonder, with your experience, first off, being a National Council representative before yourself, also working at the Mvskoke Creek Nation in one of our Human Services Department, working there with children and family, I wonder, did you have times in both of those steads where you saw where the connection between state and tribes could get a bit frustrating for both sides?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Of course, that was a long history with some of those relationships, and again, that goes back to when you have dedicated leaders from the top, such as Director Lake, that are paying attention and felt that was a need for tribes to be heard, for relationships to be positive and to bridge those relationships between the tribe and the state. Tribes have to also be a part of that. They have to buy into the fact that this is a needful position, and they do have that person that has the opportunity to make that change by feeding that information to the director.
Certainly working in the Children and Family Services Division at Mvskoke Creek Nation, you could identify some things that maybe that you all gave attention to that needed the most attention. What are some of the things that we're dealing with that Department of Human Services would handle and some of our own departments at Creek Nation, or any of the tribes really? Do you recognize a theme in something that we're dealing with that we really need to give attention to?
Sure, there are a few things, or at least a couple I can think of off the top of my head, is the need for foster homes. Our children, all Native children, our Creek children, whether they're in tribal or they're in state custody, they need homes. And those homes are very, very important for the fact is that we want to keep our children, number one, within our tribe, tied to their culture. It's very, very important when we have our children that if we're not housing those children or we're not placing those children with Native families or within our tribes, we begin to lose a little bit of our culture and a little bit of who we are as a people through our children. You hear it all the time, our children are our future, and they truly, truly are, and we have to really be looking at the need for those children to grow up in our tribe, to be our next leaders, so that we can instill all what we believe to be important to our heart in our hearts as Native people. So we do need homes that are going to place that are going to house these children. The other would be a matter of one of the issues I believe that at a point and can still be ongoing, but it's getting better. And that is tribes being notified. Notified when when Native children are being placed in custody by the state, that those tribes are contacted. That's really, really important. It's especially important in local county areas for the fact that that's where your relationships are being built between the tribes and those local county areas. It isn't just a big, huge pot that information's being fed to. There, we have local DHS offices, as well as we have local tribal offices in several of the counties as well, and that's throughout the state of Oklahoma. So having notice and making sure that those children are being kept in contact with their tribes, that's very important.
With the way that we are politically right now in the climate of not only America with our election just recently, but also the state and its financial situation that's well publicized and we know about. Do you have any concerns about departments such as yours or tribal programs as well on a national level? We're talking about a complete shift in leadership nationally. Are there concerns there?
Sure. Of course, there was a reduction in force lately due to the budget cuts. The concern is the direct services to families and to children during this time. A lot of positions, some have retired, and those positions won't be filled. Therefore, that means that you've got caseworkers that are taking on more caseloads, more families, more children. There's a need. It's a large need. It's a great need, especially again because of the budget cuts. So it's kind of that catch-22. But the concern is the direct services to families and to children, and especially those in regards that need protection, such as our vulnerable adults and our children.
Before we let you go, Carmen, is there anything else you'd like to add before we let you get back to business?
I just, yeah, sure. It's just an incredible opportunity to be in this position. There are people that have that truly get into the tribal liaison positions and feel very encouraged, and I feel very encouraged by my bosses. They are very empowering and very supportive. We have the opportunity for change at this point. We do, and I'd like to consider myself one of those agents of change, and have the opportunity to not just work for, with my tribe, but with all tribes across Oklahoma, and to build those relationships and to engage tribes and to make sure that tribes are at the table. That's what's important. We have a voice as far as tribes are concerned, and we want to be at the table to build those relationships. And I feel like that Director Lake has had that vision, and he is committed to that vision to building those relationships with tribes.
Great. Well, I will say it's great having a creek at the table.
Well,
that's for sure.
I'm excited about it.
All right.
So.
All right. Well, Carmen, thanks so much for the time with us today, and we appreciate it, and we wish you the best of luck, and look forward to covering news with you in the next year.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's Jason Salzman, host of Native News Today. You can catch their program on Saturday afternoons, just after lunch there. Okay, well, we have a short stack of community announcements here, and I want to remind everyone that this is the season of giving, and so they should consider helping out where they can, food, clothing drives, things like that. They're all going to be happening. All right, but let's start off with Creek Fit Toy Drive, starting now until December 21st. They're collecting toys for those children who might not get something for Christmas. So you want to help them out. You can drop off your donations of toys. Hopefully a new unwrapped gift. Omniplex Dome and also the Finance Building. You can get a hold of Sheila Buckley and give them a call, 918-732-7915. Okay, a holiday luncheon coming up December 2nd at the Glenpool Conference Center for enrolled Creek elders 55 years or older. It's a nice way for them to get together and have a lunch and be honored for the knowledge they have. And they also have a holiday basket bingo. Then elders could win a basket and give a basket to another elder. If you're interested, it's Elder Services, 918-732-7765. That's December 2nd, and that's up in the Glenpool Conference Center from 12 until 2. If you're looking for a job, looking for some extra money, particularly during this season, Taco Bueno is looking. They've got on-site interviews in Henrietta, December 6th from 9 to 4. You can check that out. Education and Training Building here in the Mvskoke Tribal Complex. So they're coming up here. So if you're interested, there's a chance maybe to make some money for the holidays. Lucy Briggs at 918-732-7773. Okay, where are we here? Coming up, Movies in the Dome is returning December 8th. That's a Thursday from 5:30 p.m. until 6:30 p.m. in the Mvskoke Dome. You can get your picture taken with Santa and the free hot chocolate. That's 6:30, Mvskoke Creek Nation Dome, the Mvskoke Dome. If you're interested, 918-732-7992. And of course, it's that time of the year again for the angel tree. It is up now, and angels can be picked up already. Pick up and drop off a location at the Mvskoke Creek Nation Complex Community Services Building. So if you'd like to take part in that program, it's 918-732-7969. Coming up in the spring, for the spring celebration, there's a T-shirt design and art contest. The theme is Youth Celebrating Traditions, and its deadline is January 13th. So if you're interested in taking part in that and possibly winning some prizes and having your artwork put on a shirt, you might want to get a hold of them. 918-732-7600. Okay, where are we here? That's about it. If you're interested in working as an editor with the Mvskoke Creek Nation newspaper, give Sterling Cosper a call, 732-7827. And that's all we can do this week. Thank you for listening. Mabo Hedgetscut, Gary Five, Geo Jifkados. Mado. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. Mado.